everyone. I'm Theresa Lieb, VP of Nature and Europe at Trellis Group, and I'm really excited to be speaking today with Paola Bernazzani. Paola joined Stantec as a nature lead in August and brings over 30 years of experience in biodiversity assessments, conservation, and planning with her to that role. Welcome, Paola.
Thank you, Teresa. Happy to be here.
So, you know a lot more about biodiversity conservation and endangered species in particular than most of our audience. Would you mind sharing your favorite fun fact with them to kind of let people know a little bit more about what's worth conserving?
I've worked with endangered species and biodiversity for 20 to 30 years now, so I'm very passionate about it. And one of my favorite species to work with are bats. I started out when I was doing my master's doing field surveys on bats, and more recently I've done a lot of conservation planning associated with bats. And of course, bats are kind of misunderstood. People think of them as little flying rats, and I honestly don't have anything against rats either, but they're very different. They live very long lives. Some of them live upwards of 18 years. They have one baby a year, so they're very slow reproducing. They can recognize their babies, which we call pups, from sometimes millions in a cave by scent or other things. So they're really just fascinating and beautiful and feisty creatures. So I really love working with bats, and they consume so many insects as well that I hope people can think fondly of them and their ecosystem services that they provide.
All right, so you've lived an incredibly interesting life. I think you shared that you were born in Europe to an American mom and an Italian dad. You gained your first professional experience as a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand, and then worked on conservation projects really all around the world. Among all of those experiences, was there like a really formative experience that stood out to you that brought you on the path that you're on today?
Certainly. As you mentioned, I did Peace Corps in Thailand after I graduated from college, and I had the opportunity at the end to work as a translator in Laos with the Wildlife Conservation Society. I went there and worked for several months, going into different protected areas that had been newly designated. And it was a very exciting opportunity for me. I was translating across the Lao and English speaking team members. And we were going into the jungle with nothing but food for several weeks on our back. Lots of snakes and spiders and elephants and wonderful wildlife species. And it was really an influential and incredible time for me, where I proceeded after that to work for Wildlife Conservation Society in the US. And then I moved on and decided to get my advanced degree. And that was just one of the things I remember as really shaping my career at the time.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredible opportunity. And and then before joining Stantec, you were with ICF and led over 18 country-specific biodiversity analysis around the world. So you have that experience and the experience on the ground in Thailand and many other things, and now really focused on corporate nature strategies and how to bring those to life. What are some of the most important insights that you bring to this role from those biodiversity assessments?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of the Stantec team and to have transitioned over to this ESG advisory group. It's very similar to the work I've done over the past 20 years. But working directly with companies, I think, is really such an exciting way to move the needle on conservation, on biodiversity and nature, and to really help companies identify what's practical, what's needed, and what's solution oriented. And I think that's part of the biodiversity assessments that I did. You do need to be solution oriented, whether you're working domestically with companies or whether you're working internationally with governments. You need to understand what needs to be done and what's feasible to be done over the long term. So that's part of what I bring. And then also just the knowledge of all of these types of processes involve thinking about what impacts are, how to minimize them, and then how to offset them or to improve biodiversity outcomes through this type of work. So, very broadly speaking, both the domestic work that I've done and the international work that I've done, I think is going to be very helpful in the ESG advisory world for other companies.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially because a lot of companies are really still in the data collection and assessment phase and kind of like looking at regulations. I'm based in Europe, so everybody here is looking at CSRD and EUDR.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really like trying to understand where do the assessments and then the impact on the ground come together. Um, so yeah, I think your experience would be really helpful in building those bridges.
Yeah, certainly thinking a little bit about, being science-based and having that as part of the background, but also understanding a regulatory framework and where that comes in, and just really thinking about incremental and positive and impactful solutions, how to kind of pull those things together. Uh, as you mentioned, CSRD, and that's coming down and it's affecting a lot of American companies as well, and our global partners across the world that need to start thinking about that. There are American laws that are coming and changing, and then there's just guidance that's come out that some companies want to adhere to, and kind of weaving all of that together into a strategy that works and that can be done in a stepwise way that's not biting off too much at one time, prioritizing the things that are most important. Those are the type of things that I think is going to be very important as we move into some of this ESG work.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on the new role. I look forward to seeing all of these new strategies that you develop and the projects coming out of it. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, Theresa. It was a pleasure.